Good evening, students. Today we are going to revise the poem The Charge of the Light Brigade by Alfred Lord Tennyson. And to begin with, we begin from the very first page. But before that, revising is a way to learn about the craft of writing, and revision skills complement reading skills. So, reading is very important. In order to revise, you need to read the poem again and again, at least twice. And while you read, underline the difficult words and memorize the meaning. And not only that, while you read line by line, evaluate and think with questions like who, whom, what, when, where, how, etc. And on repeated request of students, I thought I must accede to their request and I've attempted to revise the lesson. Revision exercises are a bit painstaking job and needs lot of critical evaluation of a text. So I have attempted it here, but I just hope that you would go through it thoroughly yourself. So here we can see we begin right from the beginning, from the before the cross curricular section. Even in the about the poet, we have the question here: who is the poet of the poem The Charge of the Light Brigade? And we know the answer is Lord Alfred Tennyson or Alfred Lord Tennyson. Now, from the cross curricular section, we have the question here: what is the Light Brigade? And the answer is given there. The Light Brigade was a British horse-mounted cavalry unit. You can see here there's a error, a printing error. Instead of cavalry, the spelling is given incorrectly, which reads as calvary. So it's cavalry unit. You must correct this. So correct the spelling then and there. As soon as you go through this video, correct the spelling there, so that you are not going to use it in your future or reference. Now, when and where did the charge of the Light Brigade take place? It's given here. The charge of the Light Brigade took place during the Battle of Balaclava in the Crimean War, and it happened on 15th October 1854, as you can see it here in the date. Who was leading the charge? Lord Cardigan was leading the charge. How many men were in the Light Brigade? So there were about 670 men in the Light Brigade, and most of them were killed in the charge. So we move on to the next. Now from here we have the first question comes here. Who is the speaker of the poem? So the speaker of the poem is anonymous because we don't know whether he or she. So what is the meaning of half a league? So why is it repeated in the poem? A league is about a mile and a half. This was the distance that the British soldiers had to ride to reach the enemy post. The line is repeated to emphasize that the soldiers were ready to sacrifice their lives on that day in the battleground. So what is the order given to the Light Brigade? Charge for the guns. What is the order? The order is here: charge for the guns. The Light Brigade is ordered to move forward and to charge for the guns. Why is the valley described as the valley of death? Death was certain inside the valley, so it is being called as the valley of death. Now in the second stanza we have, did the men know that there was a mistake in the order? Yes, they did know it. Why do the men of the Light Brigade charge when they knew the order is a mistake or was a mistake? The soldiers follow orders given by the commander. They do not analyze, reason, or question the given orders. They are trained to fight for the honor and glory of their country. Questioning the superiors is considered indiscipline, and refusing to fight is called deserting. So why is the valley described as the mouth of hell? So in the next stanza, you can see why is it described as the mouth of hell. So hell is full of suffering and misery, Entering the valley meant facing attack, firing, and shelling by soldiers of the Russian army, heavily armed with guns, cannons, and ammunition. Painful death was certain inside the valley, so it is compared to hell. Now, coming to stanza 4, who flashed all their sabers? The soldiers of the Light Brigade flashed their sabers. And then we have the question, at whom did they flash their sabers? Who were their enemy? They flashed their sabers at the Russian army and its allies, the Cossacks. So why does the second flashed in the above verse mean? What does it mean, the second flashed? You can see it is underlined. The term flashed here means that the soldiers were very quick in their movements and only a flash, a quick movement could be seen and not the whole person riding upon his horse. Why does the poet say, while all the world wondered? So it's given here. The poet says these words to highlight the fact that the men followed their orders as they were soldiers doing their duty without questioning. Most of them knew that the order was wrong. Still, they did not stop or desert their position. The world wondered at their sincerity and dedication. Now, question number 16. Why does the poet use repetition in the poem, as we have seen in the first stanza also? The rhythm of the repeated lines create a relentless beat. The beat is continued throughout the poem, reflecting the riding of the Light Brigade. So it goes on, the pit-pat of the horse. So the Light Brigade riding into the battle on horseback and its return. So Tennyson's use of repetition in the poem is perhaps intended to stress upon and communicate the courage of the soldiers and of the dangers faced by the brigade, armed only with swords against the enemy with guns. So in the lines, not though had blundered. So we move on to the next paragraph or the next verse we have here. So it says here, why they blundered. Why did they blunder? So here we see due to a misunderstanding, an order sent by the commander-in-chief, especially in stanza 2. The word blunder comes in. So what's a blunder? So the British soldiers were ordered to attack the Russians. The British soldiers with only swords and lances went into a valley to attack the Russian armed with guns. The Russian army had cannons and guns and was guarding the valley from 3 sides. So what does then they rode back, but not the 600. You can see that it is here, not the 600. So what does it imply in the stanza 4? The above lines imply that not all the soldiers of those 600 of the British Light Brigade returned back. So they perished in the charge. This shows the dedication and the courage of the soldiers. They are not bothered about their own lives and followed orders. So the poet leaves the number of soldiers who died to the reader's imagination to emphasize their bravery. Did all the soldiers make the journey back? Cite the lines from the poem that indicate the fate of the soldiers. We can see it here. It is mentioned in the last 3 stanzas, that is 4, 5 and 6. No, all the soldiers did not make the journey back. The Light Brigade lost many soldiers and horses. Only a few survived. So what are the lines? Stormed with the shot and shell. All that was left. And then we have here, all that was left of them, left of 600. And again we have it in the last stanza also. All the world wondered on the charge they made. So it all tells us, especially 4, 5 and stanza 4 and 5 tells us about how they charged. How does the poet urge us to regard the Light Brigade? that comes especially in the last stanza. The poet reminds the reader throughout the poem of the tremendous difficulties faced by those at war. They ride without question into the enemy area, knowing the outcome could be certain death. Their sacrifice is symbolic to all those who sacrifice their lives for the country, so their glory should not fade. That is what is written. Honor the Light Brigade, Noble 600. So, does the poem glorify war, courage, and honor? Give reasons for your answer. The Charge of the Light Brigade is a poem that both praises and laments the battle. Soldiers often fight wars with the knowledge that death is almost certain. Tennyson shows how violent and relentless war is by using repetition at the start of each stanza. The poet celebrates soldiers who conduct themselves honorably, and words such as glory, honor, and noble are used by the poet, indications of the admiration he feels for the men who fought in the war. So the poem communicates disgust at the treatment of the men of the Light Brigade. However, it presents the view that taking orders and serving one's country is honorable. Now, what is the poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade, about? The poem tells the story of a brigade consisting of 600 plus soldiers who rode on horseback into the valley of death for half a league. They were attacked by cannon shots from both sides and from the front, yet they rode courageously forward together towards their doom. They knew that someone had blundered, but they had discipline and followed their commander's orders. Most men perished. Some of them were so skilled that they reached the enemy camp at the other end, fought with them, and returned back. The bravery and courage of the noblemen of the Light Brigade remained worthy of honor and glory. So, what orders were given to the Light Brigade? To charge and to attack. What is the message the reader should take away from the charge of the Light Brigade? So, the message that we must take is about honor and the bravery of the soldiers. The message is to embrace what is worthy of honor. And in the end, second stanza of the Charge of the Light, why does the speaker ask, was there a man dismayed? Because the soldiers are not supposed to question. They knew the order was wrong, but they have to follow and obey the orders. Not one of them questioned the orders to launch an attack against far superior forces. So they were not dismayed. They knew they had to follow the orders. So, what verbs and adjectives describe the actual combat of the soldiers in the poem? Words like flashed, sabering, charging, all the world, etc. tell us about the combat. So, now, how did the soldiers in the charge of the Light Brigade respond to the orders given? They immediately followed the order given and started to charge. So, why do the soldiers charge at their opponent despite knowing that it was a blunder? Despite knowing that it was a blunder, they charged because they had to follow. They were seasoned. They were trained to follow orders and not to question, not to analyze. So, I hope all these questions, and the question here, how did the Light Brigade charge the Russians? They charged the enemy with swords and lances. And the last stanza, when can their glory fade? Never can their glory fade. They would be forever remembered, for Tennyson has immortalized the brave men of the Light Brigade. So here, children, we end the revision of this wonderful poem, and I hope you would go through the poem once again and thereby learn and revise it thoroughly for your forthcoming exams. All the best. Thank you.